I was 15 when I left. I told myself it was because we had no money. Dad was gone. And Mum couldn't feed 3 boys on nothing. That was the lie I chose. The truth was simpler and uglier. I was scared of her. I was scared of what she was becoming. After Dad died, something in her broke. Not the kind of break you can see, the kind that happens behind the eyes. She would be standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes, totally normal. And then she would just start screaming. Not at anyone, not at anything. We would freeze. My 2 little brothers would grab each other's hands under the table and say nothing. Then it would stop. She would turn around, dry her hands on the towel, and smile at us. "Who wants sex?" she would say, like nothing happened. What's even stranger is that in those worst months, when she hadn't slept for days, her hair was unwashed and she would talk to herself in the hallway at 2 a.m. She would still pick up the phone, open the camera, fix her hair with her fingers, and take a picture with us. Smiling, soft eyes, the perfect mother. She posted everything. Breakfast she made us, drawings my youngest brother did, little videos of her laughing with us in the backyard. The comments were always the same. "You're such a good mom. Your boys are so lucky. Family goals. Love this." She would read the comments out loud to herself. Then she would put the phone down and go back to whatever dark place she lived in inside her head. One night I heard her shouting through the wall, really shouting. I pressed my ear against it. She was saying, "I'm a good mother. I'm a good mother. I'm a good mother." Over and over, getting louder each time, like if she said it enough times it would become true, or maybe she was saying it to fight something that kept telling her she wasn't. I left 2 weeks after that night. I packed while they were sleeping. I told myself my brothers were young enough that they needed her more than they needed me. I told myself she was their mother and a mother would never hurt her own children. I told myself a lot of things that let me walk out that door. Every year on Mother's Day, I went back. 1 hour, flowers, and then I took the bus back to my place. She always answered the door. She would touch my face with cold hands and say, "You came," and then smile that smile that was shaped right but felt completely empty inside. Last year, I noticed her phone was gone. No phone on the table, no charger on the wall. I didn't ask, I didn't want to know. This year I got off the bus, and the street was wrong. I can't explain it better than that. I walked to the house and every window was dark. I stood at the door for a long time before I knocked. No answer. I pushed, and the door opened. The smell came out at me first. I'd never smelled anything like it, but something in my body knew exactly what it was. My legs stopped working right. I had to hold the wall. I found the switch. The light came on. On the wall across from me, written large, uneven, like Something had dragged fingers through something thick and dark. A handwriting. I recognized her handwriting. Happy Mother's Day. I kept asking my younger brothers, but no one answered. The neighbor finally told me they had been killed and that she was the one who did it. When the police came, she didn't resist. She just kept smiling as they took her away. The story was inspired by a horrifying incident involving a woman named Tiffany Lucas. Tiffany Lucas from Kentucky, USA, gained national attention in 2023 after a tragic criminal case involving her two young sons. The case shocked the local community and drew widespread attention due to its severity and the stark contrast between her public image and the allegations against her. Before the incident, Lucas had a social media presence where she reportedly shared posts that portrayed her as a loving and devoted mother. She sometimes posted photos and updates about her children, presenting an image of normal family life. These posts have been widely discussed in the context of the case as people try to understand the gap between her online persona and the tragic events that followed. I never thought I'd end up telling my wife's story like this, but there are things that don't stay buried in silence no matter how hard you try. She was a doctor when I met her. Brilliant, sharp, confident. Too confident, maybe. Even back then, people used to say she didn't talk, she commanded. Patients didn't feel comforted by her presence. They felt judged. But she was successful. In the hospital outside her room, patients were always waiting in long queues. And she made sure of one rule that everyone knew: no fee, no treatment. She believed kindness without payment was weakness. That was her philosophy. I used to argue with her sometimes at night. "Not everyone can afford you," I told her once. "They find money when it matters." She replied without even looking at me. That was her. Cold, efficient, always calculating. At first I convinced myself it was just professionalism. But slowly I started noticing how she looked at people, not as patients, but as transactions. If someone begged, she became even more rigid. If someone cried, she grew impatient. And still patients kept coming to her. People had no choice. Then came the day that broke everything. It was late afternoon. A child had been brought in after a road accident. There was blood on the street, panic everywhere. People rushed him into the hospital, shouting for help. I was at the hospital at the time. The boy was barely breathing. I stepped forward instantly. "I'll pay," I said, reaching into my pocket. But she stopped me before my hand even reached my wallet. "No fee, no treatment," she said flatly. There was silence after that. The people around us pleaded, their voices breaking. Someone said they would arrange the money. Someone else ran out immediately. The child's breathing grew weaker with every passing second. My wife didn't move. She just stood there like time didn't matter. "Bring the money, then I'll treat him." Minutes passed like hours. The crowd scattered in desperation, collecting cash from shops, homes, strangers, anything they could. I remember the sound of footsteps running back and forth, the coins clinking, voices shouting amounts. When they finally gathered enough, they handed it to her with shaking hands. Only then did she move. She prepared for surgery immediately. Her hands were steady again, her face unchanged, as if nothing in the world had shifted. I stood outside the operating room, something heavy growing in my chest that I couldn't explain. And then it happened. A scream from inside, not from the child, from her. I ran in. She was frozen, staring down at the operating table. The instrument slipped from her hands and hit the floor with a metallic crash. The room felt suddenly too small, too suffocating. The child on the table was her son, our son. I still remembered the sound she made, not words, not even a proper cry, just something broken, escaping from a human being who suddenly understood what her own rule had cost. She stepped back slowly, like the floor had disappeared beneath her. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." But it was too late. He was gone, and something inside her went with him. After that day, she didn't speak properly again. She didn't laugh. She didn't return to the hospital. She even stopped sleeping at home. She would sit for hours staring at nothing, whispering numbers under her breath. Fees, amounts, payments, like her mind was still trapped in the system that had destroyed her. Then one night she disappeared. I found her days later at the graveyard. She had made it her place. She would sit near random graves, sometimes tracing the soil with her fingers, sometimes talking softly to people who would never answer. The neighbors started avoiding her. They said the doctor had gone mad. Well, maybe she had. She stopped coming home completely. I would go to bring her back, but she would not move. "This is where I belong now," she told me once without looking up. "Everyone comes to me too late anyway." After that, I stopped forcing her. Years have passed now. She still lives among the graves. Sometimes I see her walking slowly between them at night, as if searching for something she can never recover. She never asks about me. She never asks about anything living. I used to hate her for what she did. Now I don't know what I feel, because when I close my eyes, I don't see a greedy doctor who refused treatment. I see a mother who charged life by mistake and paid with everything she had left. My mom went to the graveyard every night at 3:00 a.m. At first, I didn't understand it. After my younger brother died, our house became quiet in a way that didn't feel normal anymore. My mother still lived like she always had during the day. She would tell me, "Seema, go to school, eat," like any normal mother would. But something inside her was not normal anymore. At night, she turned into something else. At exactly 3 a.m., she would wake up and leave the house without making a sound. I first noticed it by accident one night when I couldn't sleep. I saw her open the door and step outside. I thought maybe she was just walking to calm herself, trying to breathe through her grief. But she didn't stay near the house. She kept walking into the darkness, into the empty streets, like she was following something only she could see. The next night, I waited. And she did it again. Same time, same silence, same direction. On the third night, I followed her. I stayed behind her at a distance, careful, not to make any sound. The town was asleep and everything felt frozen in place. She never turned back, not even once. It was like she already knew the path by heart. We reached the edge of town where the graveyard gate stood slightly open. She walked inside. My heart started beating faster, but I still followed her in. Inside, the air felt heavier, and the graves looked like dark shadows scattered across the ground. And then I heard her voice, soft, broken. I stopped behind a tree and watched. She was kneeling in front of my brother's grave. Seeing the soil of the grave made me extremely anxious, and a deep fear started spreading through my entire body. Her hand rested gently on the ground like she was touching him through it. She was talking to my brother as if he would answer. "Son, I brought your favorite biscuits for you. They're a little crushed. I hope you won't mind. I wish that day had never happened. So you wouldn't have left us." These words shocked me. What day had not happened? I knew he died from falling downstairs while going to school. My mom, who didn't know I was standing behind her, went on. "If you had not argued that day, if I'd not slapped you, if your head hadn't hit the wall, you wouldn't have died." I was shocked. I felt my whole body freeze. In that moment, I accidentally made a sound, and my mom turned around, and she knew I'd discovered her darkest secret. She looked at me for a long time without saying anything, slowly coming closer and closer to me.